You're listening to the Husker Online Show, your authority on Nebraska athletics.
I came into it, number one, saying to myself that the mistake a lot of guys make when they take over a new job is to feel like they have to just go out and rush out and get a bunch of guys. So I was like, don't do that. However, I didn't realize the overwhelming response. A lot of guys that some of these kids that are committed to us, like I've known them since they were in like 7th grade, 8th grade, and they're like, "Oh, coach, I want to come back with you," and so or get back to you. So that kind of surprised me a little. Not surprised me, but I didn't take that into account. Last time I was doing this, there was a limit on how many NLIs you could send down, how many scholarships you could give. That's not true anymore. And I've always had this belief that, like, I'm not one of those guys who says I need 3 of these, 4 of these. People ask me all the time, how many more do we have? The guys are going to come. They're going to change their position, and we love to change guys' positions if it's going to help them play in the NFL. So I just try to take the best players.
And welcome here to this signing day edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washhead, as we're going to take you through on this Christmas edition of the Husker Online Show. Nebraska makes it through signing day. 21 high school, junior college players signed, 6 transfer portal players announced. So a total of 27 scholarship roster additions. And we know of a couple more that could happen here in the coming weeks ahead. So
more portal people, right?
Portal, and Cam Lenhart is an edge guy. So they're going to be over 30 guys again. And
Cam Lenhart is going to announce at an All-Star game in early January.
Yeah, and there's a couple other guys that are in line, but yeah, I think Cam Lenhart. I think he's coming. That's 28, and then 2, 3, 4 more portal guys. Last year, they took 33.
Okay, how many portal guys last year?
15.
15 portal guys last year, and 6 this year so far.
So a little bit a different blend. Like Frost, right. You go back and look at like Frost last year, guys. He built to save his job. Mm-hmm. Like
desperation.
He went 15 portals, 3 JUCOs, 15 high schools. Rule is building this that, hey, I'm on an 8-year contract. I'm here for a long time. And I'm taking 22 high school guys and, maybe 8 portal guys, maybe 9 portal guys. So definitely a different blend. Just when you kind of look at how this opening class of Matt Rule has made, and we'll get more into how impressive the efforts were, but your takes, Robin, on the class.
Yeah, I mean, given the circumstances of what Matt Rule had to inherit from day one, I guess officially 24 days ago, and hiring a staff and then getting that staff all on the same page and getting everything coordinated to just find recruits that they want, make the contact, organize visits, set up in-homes, and do all that sort of thing in such a short amount of time. For them to accomplish what they have is pretty exceptional. I mean, right now, as we speak, looking at the On3 consensus rankings, they're 31st nationally. That's just below Baylor and just above Ole Miss. So, for all things considered of where Nebraska was, going into this offseason, that's a pretty good spot to be in. And then especially with Sean talking about, they're not done yet. So that ranking could continue to vault as they continue to add transfers and maybe a couple other high school kids.
Yeah, and I don't like, I'm always a little careful at this point in my life to talk about players who are untested. So I don't want to go too far into that, but the organization was really impressive in these 24 days. Robin alluded to it. Vince Ginta, the head of the recruiting operation, gets a lot of credit, but Matt Rule gets the lion's share of the credit. I mean, he must have been working 17, 16 hours a day, it seems like. He's very energetic. He's brought a sense of organization to the program that we haven't seen since Bill Callahan.
And we can't deny that. I mean, we've lived this Sipple as much as anybody.
Right.
I joked on the chat that I'd like to say I've logged more in-person Nebraska football than anybody the last 25 years.
Right.
And this was a different type of work that we've seen from a head coach.
Now, Riley I got to give Riley's staff and Riley credit. Mike Riley did a good job.
Those satellite camps and some of the stuff they did. Yeah. But
Matt, okay, here's the difference to me. Matt Rule is 47 years old. Okay, he's a pretty young guy. Riley came here as, how old was he? 63. Just didn't have. I don't think he had the sort of energy. Of course he did. I don't have the sort of energy that Matt Rule has. I'm 56. I mean, Matt Rule comes with a lot of energy, and it's very palpable. I mean, and that's what you really detected in these last 24 days.
You're listening here to the Husker Online Show as we give opening thoughts here on the signing class. But yeah, just the day itself, it went really well for Nebraska too. You think
Would
about
you say that signing day?
Well, I mean, Vincent Carroll Jackson picks Nebraska.
Okay.
Eric Fields picks Nebraska. Elijah Judy took his announcement that he was going to wait for on Christmas Eve. Thank you, Elijah, by the way.
Yeah.
There was a chance that we were going to have to write
Malachi Coleman.
Malachi Coleman. They convinced him. And then out of nowhere, this 6-year senior, Josh Fleeks, he announces to
From
Nebraska.
Baylor.
So,
Baylor running back.
but he's a receiver. He was a running back in high school, played receiver at Baylor. He's coming in as a 6-year senior, 1-year eligible receiver in the program. So, to get that many guys on the final day, we've covered a lot of these deals, and that doesn't usually go that way for Nebraska.
God.
So the closing was excellent.
Yep.
When you go on that. Now they did lose Barry Jackson, and that was a little disappointing.
To Cincy.
But
to Cincinnati. He's a receiver from Ellenwood, Georgia, that the previous staff recruited hard.
Big Mickey Joseph guy. And, all those Mickey guys are out of this class now. Omarion Miller, Barry Jackson, Arnold Barnes, the running back.
The coldest.
Now, you can say Malachi's a Mickey guy, but I think the Colemans are a Nebraska family, period. I mean, they live in Lincoln, and Matt Rule really did a great job recruiting the Coleman family. Not just Malachi, his mom, his dad, his sister, his brother. So I think, you can look at, but just the way they brought this all together. The other thing, too, guys, the emphasis on like the track stuff, that it's fascinating to me.
Okay.
Because I've always captivated myself covering recruiting to track numbers. I mean,
you have,
and
Sean does that. You
Yes,
do
he
that.
does.
Yeah, you've done that for 20 years.
I mean, I look at high school track box scores every week for Nebraska, and I have it's just like a weird fascination, like to see football players that show up in those things, and that's honestly what they do too. I mean, they look at that. Like Jason Machacek throws the shot put further than Cam Jurgens did.
Ooh, really?
And Jason
that kid from Pierre.
Yeah, and Jason Machacek is 6'4", 320.
He really.
And he
threw the shot longer than Jurgens?
Yes.
Hello.
So, I mean, that should get your attention.
It does.
And he runs a 4.7 agility. He's 320. Yep. He benched. Now, it's not quite Steve Sipple bench, but he's 225 for 27 reps.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, he needs a little work.
Look, hey, by the way, you might see Sipple at Planet Fitness getting in some heavy reps.
Yeah. Heavy reps.
Every day's chest day.
He's one rep max guy or one max.
Yeah, one rep, 20 minutes. Sit on the bench, read the paper.
I'm keep the pen in my pocket, guy. I take him home. All right, hey,
get on the rails here.
Yeah, get back on the rails. Yeah, hey, Sean, that stuff is interesting to me. And we always talk about coaches being closers. These guys closed on a bunch of deals late. They closed.
I want to go back to the track comment and the description Matt Rule had of Evan Cooper. He said that he's the guy that is as good at watching film of unknown, underrated prospects as anyone he's ever been around. And when they took the job, or Matt Rule took the job, Evan Cooper said the very first player that they needed to offer was the kid from Westside. Jalen Lloyd. Because the track guy.
He said, take the job and then recruit that kid.
And recruit Jalen Lloyd.
That's what Evan Cooper told Rule.
Yes.
It was one of their first offers made.
Yeah. And so that's about as clear an example as anything about the emphasis on the type of athlete that they're looking for. And, with Sean's point, where it's not just speed guys, it's throwers. It's guys that are more than just one trick ponies, not just football players, but athletes.
Hey, by the way, note to ourselves, Evan Cooper's story on his film watching and how, I don't know, it seemed like Rule almost characterized it as obsessive.
He would text him at 3 o'clock in the morning about a guy that he discovered.
Yeah, watching
and he
film
said,
at 3 a.m.
He said, get used to Nebraska offering players you've never heard of, and then within the next month or so, he'll have 10 offers.
Evan Cooper is the defensive backs coach, corners coach.
Oh, yeah. And
Evan Cooper's a name to – I mean, today – that little vignette that Rule shared with us put him kind of on people's radar. Mm-hmm. Oh, Cooper's the guy that discovers a lot of these gems. So, Sean, that's a story we do later.
When Matt Rule got off that van, when he pulled into Lincoln, there were 2 people with him besides his family on that van. Corey Campbell, the strength coach, and Evan Cooper.
Oh,
So those were the first two
interesting.
taking a
Sean.
Deion Sanders line, pieces of luggage that came with Matt Rule to Lincoln.
Did you put that in Tunnel Talk?
I mean,
You
I
might
could.
put that. Yeah.
Don't. I mean,
What?
yeah, I could.
Am I not supposed to share that on the air?
What stays in tunnel?
Yeah.
we're gonna get jumped on by our members.
Oh yeah, I'll shut up. I'll just shut the hell up.
It's all right. You're still new to this. It's fine.
Yeah.
Sipple gets accused of taking his whole talk radio show and giving it away on Tunnel Talk.
I'll do a little of that. I mean,
Hey,
I just don't think people listen to our show. I don't know.
all right. Well, hey guys, let's continue this conversation.
Yeah.
We're going to talk quarterbacks. We're going to
yes.
talk offensive line. We got much more to come here on this signing day Christmas edition of the Husker Online Show.
You're listening to the Husker Online Show, your authority on Nebraska athletics.
Yeah, and I didn't come in and say, boy, I really want to transfer quarterback. When Jeff came available, I said I want Jeff. That was. I think there's really good quarterbacks. I think that's a healthy room. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in that. I've watched practice tape on some of them. I have to get around them, but there's a lot of good players, and the best player will play with me. Scholarship, walk-on, freshman, senior, none of that matters to me. Talk to Casey. Casey's an impressive young man. Obviously, I don't share what I say with guys and conversations that we have, but he's an impressive young man. He played a lot of good football, and looking forward to him getting healthy and moving forward.
And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Before we get to that, this segment brought to you by Tanner's Sports Bar and Grill. Great place to watch the NFL action this weekend, college football bowl games. These bowl games have been fun. I've been able to watch a little bit here lately, early on, and get on into Tanner's. Watch all the football, all the basketball, get some gift cards for Christmas. It's a great Christmas idea. Give your loved one a gift card to Tanner's Sports Bar and Grill. Schedule reservation as well. New Year's Eve next door, Tavern 180, USDA Prime Steaks, cocktails.
They got hot wings.
At Tavern 180, no.
No, but at Tanner's.
Tanners.
Tanners has
Walk
the
across
wings.
the hall.
Now, Tavern 180 is a little classier.
Yeah. Good New Year's Eve spot.
So that's a place for you guys and not me.
Well, you had the Wagyu steak,
I did. It was good.
and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I'll go phenomenal.
That's probably the last time you talked in depth with Coach Frost.
Yeah, I sat with him. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed sitting with Coach
And
Frost.
that's a whole nother summer show. But that was kind of a night where you almost knew this thing wasn't going to work.
Why'd you say that?
Well, just feeling the inner workings of the politics and kind of where things were at.
Good point.
That night
Good
when we
point.
talked after that preseason Husker night at Tanner's, our sponsor of the segment, you kind of this is not going to go very well.
Well,
You could just feel like things weren't on a steady path with him and just his mindset and where things are at.
Scott, or it would have to go well despite all that. And that can happen. I mean, I've seen it happen at Nebraska where it goes well kind of despite itself.
Like Bo.
Yeah, that for
like
sure.
Like Bo winning at Penn State with Ron Kellogg.
Yeah, and just and with his like Bo winning with his bosses wanting him to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's that. Frank winning with his bosses wanted him to lose. Scott was in that position. He had to win with his boss. Did I just say that on the air? Did I say that?
But I mean, let's give Trev credit. I mean, at least 1 month in, I mean, this feels right. At least right.
Absolutely.
Now.
Oh, it does.
And so I want to make sure I say that. Like, this feels right. Like when
It does. And now some people are going to say, okay, here
You
we
said
go
this again, and-
Yeah, here we
Right,
go
right.
again. Here we go again with you guys pouring Kool-Aid.
the preachers on Sunday.
But as far as the sample size of what we have to evaluate, I mean, what can you complain about?
Nothing.
That's the point. Obviously they have not even held a practice yet.
Right.
They don't even have a full coaching
We-
staff.
we get
Like,
that.
there's a lot of things that still need to be addressed. But given what has transpired over the past less than a month, I would say it's been pretty much all positive.
Yeah, and nobody's saying, so let's just say it this way. We're not Robin, Sean, Sipple. We're not saying, okay, get ready. They're going to win 9, maybe 10. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Nope.
Nobody's doing that.
Simple. You just want to go to Detroit.
That'd be good. Just a bowl game in December.
You want to go to a good Mexican restaurant by the
Paso.
Detroit airport.
Almost hit El Toro up by the airport.
No, Matador.
Matador.
And
It
I
wasn't
made-
El Matador.
It wasn't El. It was Matador.
Curious to me that it was just Matador.
They lost their liquor license too.
Yeah.
It was
yeah. And they thought I was a cop. I know they thought I was a cop because they really, I'm a little white guy. I think they thought for sure this guy's a cop the way they were
and he
looking at him.
turned down a full meal at the Chop House in Ann Arbor.
To go to Matador.
And we saw Taylor Lewan and Will Compton and the Busing with the Boys. I mean, this
Boys.
was Robert and I had this thing set up for like months.
If Bussin' and the Boys would have been in the Matador, it would have been.
Somebody's getting arrested.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it would have been stunning.
All right.
If
Well,
anybody's in the Matador. I mean, there's only 4 cars there at prime dinner time. That should have been a red flag. And then the biggest red flag was, well,
one of them
can I
was
get a
our-
margarita? We lost our liquor license.
Yep.
Hello.
That's what you should have known at that point.
all right. Let's talk quarterbacks now as we get back on the tracks.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Those comments. I'm going to read the tea leaves here. Jeff Sims is walking into a very good situation, in my opinion, because Casey Thompson's hurt right now. He's not going to be a part of the spring.
Not maybe a little.
But are they going to want him rush back? It's got
Probably not.
Jeff Sims has a great opportunity.
And
period.
you say that because Robin, to say what? Because of what we heard today.
Yeah, I mean, you heard it in the open. There's the conflicting, I guess, responses to questions about Sims and directly about Casey Thompson, to where
Striking.
Matt Rule is referring to him as a no doubt pro, and that NFL guys were saying you need to go get this guy as soon as he took the Nebraska, or as soon as Sims hit the portal. So. Then you compare it to Casey, where it's like, yeah, he's a great guy. I'm not going to talk about our conversations.
Played
but
some good football.
Yeah, he played some good football. Like that, I mean, you don't want to read too much into that.
It was the shortest answer he gave in the whole
was-
press conference.
But just how drastically different those two answers were pretty telling.
I wonder, Sean, that should be addressed in your 3-2-1, perhaps. Yeah, that is striking. So yeah, the way I look at the quarterback position changed it. But you know what we didn't ask today that we should have? Will you keep 6 quarterbacks on
everybody
scholarship?
else.
Will you keep 6 on scholarship?
That's too many.
Here's the issue with the rule now. He's so long on his answers that you better be good with your questions.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get many.
He's not. No, hold on, Sean.
He's
pay
good.
attention to that today. He stops,
But
it's not too bad that way.
he's going to give long, well-delivered answers.
Right. Riley was a big philosophical guy, and I'm not dogging Mike Riley, but he was. It got I don't know if you guys maybe you don't have the same, but I thought those press conferences got way too
the 20-minute opening statement.
Yeah, and then way too philosophical. Like, my God, what are we talking about?
And where
Now-
Frost and Mickey were short.
Yeah, they were. Now, back to the quarterbacks, though. We didn't ask the question. I should have. How many do you want to keep? I mean, isn't that how many scholarship quarterbacks do you want to keep? Shouldn't we have asked?
And
that
now
question?
Marcus Satterfield, by the way, is the quarterbacks coach.
Yeah. How many will he keep?
I mean, 6 that's
seems
unheard
like
of.
a lot,
I
yeah.
mean, like in this day and age, in the portal era, keeping 6 scholarship quarterbacks happy.
5's the max.
And
seems
how
like
many,
a- 5 seems like a
how many
lot.
do they even recruit? Like, I mean, it just seems like there's going to be some fairly substantial turnover in that position.
Well, and we shared this in Tunnel Talk a couple of weeks ago that they at least had some favorable conversations with Heinrich Harburg.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost feels like they kind of probably know the inevitable that they are going to lose some guys, but they need to keep some guys here too.
For spring ball, just
Exactly. He needs some arms.
Yeah.
But Logan strikes me as a guy that's just good. I mean, he's
Logan Smothers.
I'm not speaking for Logan, and I have a lot of respect for Shane and Logan. They're a great family, but you just wonder what their thought process is. And, is he going to get his degree first and foremost before he worries about anything? Or is he going to stay here and keep battling because he loves Nebraska?
He loves it here. He said that. Remember in the spring of
And I love Logan. He's a great young man.
the last time, well, not the last time he talked, but they don't have. I mean, he doesn't talk that much because he's a backup. But he has talked about how much he loves it here, how much he loves his teammates, how much he loves the program. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays. Now, what's Richard Torres do? What's Chubba Purdy do? What do they do?
The key nugget, too, was these quarterbacks have to run now. And they kind of went. It was weird. Like, Frost went with these running quarterbacks, like Adrian and Noah Vedral and McCaffrey, who they took over Max Duggan. Are they
Nice.
It's
Nice recruiting.
It's a whole other show in July.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, by the way.
Right. So what are you saying?
But I'm saying then they went to like these guys like Casey and Chubba. Chubba can run though. Not,
Yeah, Chubba can run.
But
Torres though,
Torres not a runner.
strange. Yeah.
But yeah, it's is Torres a guy that's just going to end up playing for like Jeff Traylor at UTSA?
Well, it wouldn't be bad if he did.
No, I mean great coach, great. What's like a guy like that thinking right now?
Good question.
Because they could still bring in Malik Hornsby from Arkansas.
I was going to ask you guys about that. Do you think they will do that?
My read from people I've talked to is to say, stand by, wait. So
How long?
the portal's open till January 16th
Okay.
as far as when guys can enter. So I think that's the mile marker. And then January 23rd is when classes start.
Okay.
But players will begin reporting to Lincoln around Sunday the 15th.
Okay.
That's when a lot of the guys start to get here.
Okay. So there could be more move. Oh, but there will be more move.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first 2 weeks of January will there'll be some stuff to like look into. Then the coaches will go back on the road to recruit a little bit more.
When?
Let's see, what are the dates? There's like 2 or 3 weeks in January. I got to get the exact calendar, but so the first week of January, there's a window. I believe it's the 4th through the 8th, where you can have transfer portal visitors come in. And then I think the next 2 weekends, I think the 20th and the 27th for sure, you can have visitors in. I think there's at least 2, if not 3 weekends in January you can have more visitors in, but no one's going to really have visitors because how many high school players, there's going to be some, but not very many left.
Okay. As far as that quarterback thing goes, I'm still making – I mean, Casey Thompson has earned a lot of respect. And perhaps he's earned being – whenever he gets back, being the number one guy. And somebody's got to unseat him.
Yeah, maybe Rule's comments are just because they don't know each other that well, and he knows Sims for several years. So maybe that's just that, and we're reading far too much into it.
All right, well, this will be a topic talked about for months to come. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion here on signing day. You're listening to the Husker Online Show.
This is Husker Online, your authority on Nebraska athletics.
I think you always start at home. The key to long-term success is for every 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grader in the state of Nebraska to grow up dreaming of playing out here. They have to see other kids just like them do that. As I went through this process of evaluating this job, if I would be a good fit here, I got to know these players. I watched them. I wanted the local kids to stay here and play here in Nebraska. So we got a lot of them. A couple we didn't get, but the ones that we got, they came for the right reasons. They wanted to be here. And, we can't take everybody, but the ones we got are definitely good enough, and they're going to fight for their university.
And welcome back here to the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Robin Washhead, Steve Sipple. You heard Matt Rule talking about in-state recruiting. Nebraska signed 8 in-state players, gentlemen. It's the highest number since 1998, which Nebraska took 9 that year.
That's Frank's first class.
That was like the Jeremy Selecta. Trying to think who else would have been in that class.
You're usually really good at this, Sean.
Well, I didn't cover recruiting full-time.
Until 99.
Well, 99 season, class of 2000.
Okay.
I graduated high school in 99. So
I can't remember all those guys.
Like, I remember the 99 class well because that was my freshman year at Nebraska, and I hung out with a lot of those. I knew a lot of those guys.
Yeah. I remember Schlecht because I went to his house and did a profile story on him. Met him at his house. Papillion?
Big, tough La Vista kid, yeah.
Yeah, big, tough kid.
Good blue collar, tough guy.
Tough
great
dude.
guy. Lives in Gretna now. I've run into him once or twice over the years. But you look at this in-state group, and all together, there could have been 11. I mean, Nebraska offered Benny DeGoy.
Benny DeGoy went to Iowa State.
Benjamin Bramer went to Iowa State.
Bramer went to Iowa State.
And then I'm missing one.
Zane Flores.
Well, no, McIntyre.
Oh, Cade McIntyre.
Those are the 3 they offered publicly. So that's 11.
That's Cade McIntyre.
Yeah, and then Zane Flores, they kicked the tires on, but the Flores family, not Flores, the Flores family. They were very loyal to their commit to Oklahoma State, and I don't blame them. I mean, Oklahoma State has been behind them the whole way. So Nebraska really made 12 in-state offers this year. 12. I mean, that's incredible. Mm-hmm. That is incredible.
Good talent.
And then Cade Piper from Norfolk Catholic signed with Iowa. So there are 13 Power 5 players in the state of Nebraska this year. That's the most ever that I've seen ever.
Man,
that's good news for Nebraska. For one, just because it kind of helps out with the local recruiting, but also, it allows them to hold true to this emphasis on keeping guys in state and having guys that are worthwhile to keep.
Right.
There's one thing to recruit the state, But when you're recruiting guys that are actually going to help your football team, that's a huge difference and a luxury that when you're getting that many players to choose from, that makes all the difference. And that's a luxury Nebraska hasn't had in a long time.
These guys that you're talking about, like Bramer, I think Bramer could go to Iowa State and start immediately.
Yeah, they did not.
He's good, man.
And Nebraska did not get a tight end in this class.
That's a big loss.
Like I think Bramer, if he would have come here, could have like played snaps next year.
Yeah. I was told that he is on the same level as Fedoni, just not as explosive, not quite as explosive, but other intangibles that put him on Fedoni's level. Now that's saying a mouthful. That's a coach telling me that. But he said, he goes, you watch, Bramer will go start at Iowa State as a freshman.
And he is mentally wired in. I mean, he's a very focused coach's kid, principal's kid. His sisters played college volleyball, so that's a hit. Now, I don't look at Benny Nagoy as a huge hit. I'm more disappointed, Robin, that a Lincoln High guy, where Robin's from, turned down Nebraska.
Well, I mean, you got to let's look back on his recruitment. Like, was he? How strongly did Nebraska pursue him throughout this process?
So Mickey Joseph made him. It was kind of bizarre. I remember this day. Like Mickey just kind of went in and made an offer to Benny, like when Frost was still here, on his own, like without kind of really getting it checked off through the process. So it became like a non-committable offer. So like he was offered, but it wasn't committable.
Whereas Iowa State prioritize him from start to finish. So, I mean, this kind of back and forth, on again, off again.
Good point.
With Nebraska, probably maybe soured things a little bit.
Turned him off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
now,
I don't blame him.
Wasn't that Rule's first visit?
Yeah.
When he got the job, his first stop was Lincoln High.
It's the first time that a Nebraska head football coach had been in the halls of Lincoln High in decades.
True.
I mean, and we were trying to figure this out on KFAB with Gary Saddlemeyer and Jim Rose, and they didn't know, like, your co-worker on the ticket, Aaron Davis, he's from Lincoln High.
Oh, yeah.
But he was a walk-on. Who was the last, like, scholarship Husker? I mean, it might be Mike Foltz.
Scholarship
Husker.
Hold on.
That
Not
signed-
Hasselbrook?
Walk-on.
Walk-on.
We're talking-
Hasselbrook was a walk-on? Okay.
So, there really hasn't been a...
Troy Hasselbrook?
Had even Richie Ross, the Gatorade Player of the Year in 2000.
He went to UNK.
2000. Yeah.
Richie Ross was not a scholarship player?
Nope.
He didn't go to
He
Nebraska.
played basketball at South Dakota State.
Okay.
But, yeah, you look at the guys they've had. They haven't had, a guy go to Nebraska. So that's kind of surprising. And the other one is Cade McIntyre.
Yeah.
And that one falls more on Frost. Like, he would have crawled to Nebraska, loved Nebraska, but they screwed around, and then they became like the third or fourth offer after other better programs offered, and they saw right through that. And Oklahoma offered him, and he commits to Oklahoma. So,
Good class, though.
oh my gosh, yeah. And then Zane Flores and Cade Pieper. I mean, 13 Power 5 guys in the state of Nebraska.
And what's 2024 look like, Sean?
Oh, it's Carter Nelson is going to be the focus.
Carter Nelson.
He's blowing up.
Yeah, like he's going to be a top 5 of Ainsworth. He's an 8-man player. I mean, he's kind of like a version of Scott Frost in high school. Coach's kid, mom and dad both coach. This staff is going to just love Carter Nelson because of his track stuff. I mean, he's like a dang near a 7-foot high jumper, and he runs like a 10-900, and he
at what weight?
I'm pulling up.
He's a big kid, isn't he?
Yeah, we have him at 6'5", 205.
Oh boy, man, he's jumping 7 foot.
Yeah, and he runs in like a 10-9.
Yeah.
And he throws a discus like 170 some feet.
Freakazoid.
I mean, so like the Evan Cooper like numbered game he plays, like this guy's going to be a huge priority. But yeah, you look for next year. Nebraska's already offered Daniel Kalen at Bellevue West, the quarterback. Davon Hall, and then Caleb Benning. Those are a couple of the offers they've made. I mean, there's more offers out there right now in the state of Nebraska, but those are some of the ones that have really jumped out early on.
Yeah, Matt Rule made it clear that it's not just this class. This isn't some like PR thing where we're trying to make good graces with high school coaches and fans. Like, they legitimately like the talent in this class, and they're legitimately excited about the 24 class and beyond. So this is going to be a reoccurring theme with how they address their recruiting. I think, Matt Rule said that our recruiting philosophies at Temple aren't necessarily going to work in Nebraska. Right. Well, at Baylor, they're not going to necessarily work at Nebraska. What we need to do is recruit to where we are. But when he knew right away, like he told the story of one of his first phone calls was to Brock Knutson.
Yeah, great story.
Out in Scotts Bluff. And he said,
Knutson said.
Yeah, Matt Rule said, hey, I'm Matt Rule, I'm a new head coach. I just want to get your, where do you stand with your commitment to Nebraska now? And he said, Coach, I'm a Husker.
He said, I don't care who the head coach is.
I don't care who the head coach is. And Matt Rule was like, oh, wow. I hope he'd at least, praise me a little bit or, whatever.
Yeah, he did say
feed
that.
the ego a little bit. But no, that's when he knew that these are the type of guys I need to build this program around. Guys that don't care about me. They care about the program.
That was a great story he shared.
Well,
did we get that in print anywhere?
Yes.
That was a great story.
Yes,
Brock-
in the 5 things we learned.
Thank you.
So Brock Knutson would have gone to Iowa State though. Like they came to the spring game weekend. Like they said, "This come," and they didn't think they were even going to get offered by Nebraska. And then just out of nowhere, Frost offered him, and they were getting ready to commit to Iowa State.
Oh boy!
And they had to do some thinking.
That'd be great if you lost 3 in-state kids in the class to Iowa State. That'd be great.
Which, by the way, this is the first year that I can remember Iowa State really coming into Nebraska.
That'd just be wonderful.
This is the first year Iowa State's
My God.
come in this state since Dan McCarney.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Dan McCarney.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's
ridiculous. I'm telling you, you lose Bramer, Knutson, and Benny Nagoy to Iowa State in 1 year. That's ridiculous.
So yeah, they
that's just a commentary. On
I got to know the Knutson family because they came up to our in-state tour that we do, and you'll be a part of that this year. And they love them. I mean, they have like a duck blind that's decorated with like Husker stuff.
The Knutsons.
And they show you the picture of the duck blind. I mean, they are just these are the kind of sledges, the Gatulas. I mean,
what you need.
These are the kind of guys you want to have to kind of build a foundation of your program.
Yeah, and those are the guys that have been ignored for
Maverick Noonan
a long time.
Well, I don't want to say ignored. They just probably haven't been
not prioritized.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, a couple other in-state guys I didn't mention. You've got Isaiah McMorris from Bellevue West, receiver. Davon Hall, obviously, is on that team. Caleb Pyfram, and you got to meet his father with me, Levon Pyfram.
Yeah, big dude.
Omaha
dude.
Central. He's got like 5-10 Power 5 offers now.
Already.
So, yeah. So those are the other. I mean, Nebraska's made. There's one more they made here. I want to make sure I get through all the offers for next year as we wrap up this conversation. They've got one out at Millard North too, and I want to make sure I get. They've got another offer out at Millard North as well.
Millard North kid.
Actually, no, that's for 2025.
Oh,
so
okay,
there you go. That's why I can't find it right now. He's a 2025, but in-state recruiting in good shape, no question. We didn't even talk about Dylan Raiola. Well, that's a whole nother show after signing day. But when we come back, Abby Barmore will join us. You're listening to the Husker Online Show.
This is Husker Online, your authority on Nebraska athletics.
Yeah, so social media for me is this. I don't read it because it's not super flattering when you're the head coach all the time. So I don't read it, but I communicate from it. You know what I mean? And I pay attention to the players on. I get to know the players as recruits even when they're sophomores. I see what they're about. But I also can send a message about who we are. You know what I mean? That we're going to be, we're going to be an old school program with a new school look. You know what I mean? We're going to do things the modern way, but retain old school values.
And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, limping our way here to the finish as it's been a very eventful month of December for all of us. And let's bring in one of our favorite members here of the Husker Online team joining us here on, I don't know if it's our final show of the year. We have a show next week,
final
too.
Show.
But the final show before
Thank you for your service.
Abby Barmore joining us, and lots of questions. Abby, in the mailbag, where are you starting us out with today?
All right, our first one. Which 2 players from the 2023 class do you think are going to make an instant impact on the field?
Are we going to do transfers or just high schools?
Let's just do high school first,
Okay.
and then we can do transfers.
Because it does kind of complicate it when you do transfers in there. God,
Come on, Sean.
It's a really, really broad question. I think Tristan Alvano,
there you go.
He's a
there you go.
That's a plug-in starter right there.
That's a date.
Sean,
I mean,
that's a veteran.
I think there's only
pick.
one person that may not be excited about Alvano. That's Timmy Bleekrode. And that's going to be a great battle. But
you can't pick linemen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Especially when Matt Rule said that they're going to roll with their guys and the high school group they brought in developmental. I'll go Eric Fields. Just considering what Matt Rule said about him. He said, you're going to know his name. I mean, you might not know it right now, but Nebraska fans, he will be a household name when all is said and done. I mean, the dude had 270 tackles over 2 years, 180 in 10 games this past season. So he's a smaller, versatile hybrid type guy that I'm very intrigued to see where he fits in, but I think he has a potential for an immediate impact.
Is there? Why, I mean, can't I pick Malachi Coleman?
Why couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, Malachi Coleman has measurables to play right away. I wonder where they plan on playing him. I mean, I don't think he has the measurables to play defensive end, come off the edge right now. I don't think that's what.
I mean, he's a receiver.
Well, he was recruited by some schools as an end.
Yeah, but he was recruited to Nebraska as a receiver, right?
John?
Yeah, a receiver.
Okay.
Michigan wanted him as an edge guy.
Yeah. Now, the previous staff recruited him as a receiver, I thought. Now, I don't. Now, maybe this staff is too. Anyway. Yeah, I think Malachi Coleman could play right away as a receiver.
Now, on the O-line, 5 guys, I like, not like next year.
No, not next year.
But I really think Sam Sledge and Jason Machacek are guys. And they're both coaches' kids. Machacek's dad, high school coach in South Dakota, and obviously Bob Sledge at Prep. And
Yep. You
former
like
Husker.
that Sledge name, don't you?
Oh, I mean, Sledge,
You do,
you
Sean.
can tell
Rule is.
Rule perked up about Sledge.
Yeah.
But Bobby, you've met Bobby. I mean, his
I
dad.
covered Bob. I was in school with him.
Bob is a dude.
Bob's a hammer.
And they said today,
hammer.
Greg Sharp said this, that Creighton Prep said that Sam Sledge is the best lineman to come out of that school in over 30 years.
Whoa.
And that'd probably
Whoa.
be Junior Miller would be the last great one out of there.
Junior Miller. No.
Well, they're saying he's better than Titus Adams.
I
if
don't
that's the
think
case.
Junior Miller. Junior Miller. You're thinking of another junior. Junior
Bryant.
Bryant.
Junior
Yeah,
Bryant.
Junior
I'm
Bryant.
sorry. Yeah, Junior Bryant.
Yeah, Junior Bryant. Junior Miller was a tight end from Texas.
Junior Bryant.
Junior Bryant.
And then you had, who was the other one I just mentioned? Titus Adams came from Prep.
Okay.
NFL player.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. The O-line's got some guys.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's look at the transfers. Which transfers are going to make an immediate impact?
Oh, I like that kid from Florida.
Which one?
Collier.
They
Yeah.
took 3 of them.
Yeah.
Ortiz. You like Ortiz?
I like Collier. I like Collier. 4-star player. I mean, out of high school, he's a 4-star player. I think he can come in and threaten guys right away. I don't know where. Probably we're talking about safety, probably, right?
I know we talked.
Is that what we're talking about?
Corey Collier, yeah, corner or safety.
Okay.
We talked about Jeff Sims already, but wow,
Sure.
wow. I mean, his long answer on Sims versus the 8-second answer on Casey Thompson.
Bookmark that.
Ooh.
That immediately jumped out to me.
Me too.
Don't read the tea leaves, but read the tea leaves.
Yeah, we're on the same page on this one.
Yeah, I mean,
What was up with that?
and that in itself, I mean, for one, the glowing comments about Sims, the fact that he's been on Matt Rule's radar and he's loved him for years, and he's watched as much Georgia Tech football as almost any program in the country, so he knows everything about him. And as soon as Sims officially went to the portal, Matt Rule said, "I need this guy." He had NFL guys saying that you need to go get this guy, and he said that there is zero question he's an NFL talent.
Oh, and by the way, the quarterback has to run now, Sipple.
Yep.
And that wasn't really a great endorsement for Casey Thompson.
Casey can run a little bit, and that's what Charles sells. That Casey came out of high school as a runner, and people wondered if he could throw.
Now, can he hold up in this league, though, doing it?
Right. I don't know.
I mean,
no, Casey's not a great runner. Don't get me wrong. He's not a great runner. But his dad Charles will sell that Casey coming out of high school, the big question was, can he throw it? Because he's a runner. And then it evolved in the other direction. I got to land the helicopter here.
Who's
Go.
your under the radar addition to this class?
well, Robin already hit on Eric Fields, so I'll say Bryce Turner. When you bring a guy in that runs 10.27, I mean that Trey Palmer ran that fast too, but he might be the fastest high school player in the country.
And so carrying on with that, I'll go Jalen Lloyd. The fact that they found a elite level speed skill guy from their own backyard, I think that's notable. Where Matt Rule was talking about recruiting in state, that's not just getting big lumbering linemen. That's going and getting speedsters that fit the speed model that he knows and recruits to, where it's not just Texas and Florida guys.
Let's stay at the speed element. I'll say Quentin Ivis. Did I get that name right, Sean? Quentin Ivis. He's a speedy running back from New Jersey, way under the radar. E.J. Barthel was recruiting him at UConn. He's way under the radar. I mean, he turned down Stony Brook and Monmouth and some other English.
That part of the country, though, doesn't get a lot of recruiting. I mean,
I
it's
think he was turned down soccer programs or something.
lacrosse or something.
Tottenham.
But anyway, he's under the radar, but he can run. So it continues that kind of they really concentrated on speed, both sides of the ball.
All right, Abby, we got time for 2 more. What do you got left?
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, what would you rank this recruiting class? Tough one.
Are we ranking it in context or like reality?
Context.
I'd put it at about a 8.5, 9. I mean,
Why?
Because they did about 8 months of work in 2 weeks.
Jeez.
And
You just said a mouthful.
I think all of us are feeling that right now. As we all, Brian, Sipple, and I are all. I mean, this has been a grind, guys.
Rob's also feeling it.
Rob's like, I just got to get out of this office.
Everybody's feeling it. But, yeah, I mean, I think with the context of it, the fact that, they accomplished so much in the span of really 24 days between opening press conference to signing day press conference. There was a lot of guys that were already in play, but they had to re-recruit all those guys and reestablish relationships and basically start from scratch with every one of these signees. And for them to not only keep guys, but then bring in the talent that they did, I don't know how much more you could ask for at this point.
Very organized. It reminds Sean, I'm just going to speak for Sean now, of Bill Callahan, right?
Yeah, and guess who's running the recruiting for Rule right now? Vince Ginta, who ran the Bill Callahan classes. And
Yeah, you can't.
And there's a commonality there.
You can't talk about that enough. Vince Ginta should be a story that someone writes.
Yeah, and I don't know if Vince wants like that attention for himself. I mean, but he does his job really well.
Vince Ginta runs the recruiting department, right?
And I think the key is he has a plan, and he's seen it work here before, and he shows the ideas, and Rule has his ideas, and they were able to really put together a great plan as a team. This is not easy. What they did to bring,
organization,
to bring in like 35 visitors, host them, feed them, lodge them, visit people, go on the road,
woo them.
I mean, all the things that they had to do in 2 weeks.
Oh man,
wow.
Yeah.
You could look at Matt Rule's face during the press conference. I mean, he looked like a guy that had put in some hours. He looked like all of us, but definitely the task that he had to undertake showed.
I hope he's at just some dirt road, small town Nebraska bar, just having a cocktail.
Absolutely.
We all should be going to the Caribbean.
Or the Caribbean.
Yeah, we all should be.
Let's do it.
I'm thinking like
a week in the Caribbean.
I'm like the Roca Tavern or something right now.
Yeah, you're talking about the Roca Tavern. All I hear there is cold. I want to go somewhere warm.
Pre-COVID, the Roca Tavern had communal chili going.
Yeah, that sounds great, but it's cold.
All right.
Can we go to Barbados?
Let's do it.
Yeah, you
Holiday
pay.
Party.
Sean's paying.
Yep. Thanks, boss.
Thanks, boss.
Well, no one's getting paid this month. All right, final question.
Our last question. Your favorite Christmas movie?
Ooh.
Oh, Dirty Santa.
Am I just going to start a whole controversy?
Dirty Santa?
Is that what
You
it
mean
is?
Bad Santa? What kind of movies you watch?
Sipple got the free Cinemax trial at his house.
Oh, boy.
Bad Santa.
Okay.
Bad Santa.
Dirty old Santa.
What about Die Hard? Die Hard 1, Die Hard 2. Are they up there? Sipple's. I'm trying to keep this train on the tracks.
It's tough. Okay.
I like the Die Hards, but you can argue they're not Christmas. I mean, you can't go wrong with Chevy Chase and
Christmas Vacation. That's number one for me. But here's an underrated one that I'll throw in there. Okay. Scrooged with Bill Murray. Do you guys ever watch that one?
No.
It's like an late 80s, early 90s movie, and it's fantastic. Watch it every year.
So, isn't somebody going to say, you guys didn't even mention A Christmas Story? Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Have you seen Four Christmases with Reese Witherspoon
Yes,
and what's his name? Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn.
That is great.
That's a good
Is
one.
it?
And
That's on. Is that on LMN?
well, no. So it's about like they're a married couple. They always go out of town on
We're
vacation
losing it.
because their parents are all divorced.
Okay.
So they have 4 Christmases, and my parents are divorced. All of us deal with it in our own sense. So it's pretty it's pretty funny,
Relatable, yeah.
And they're like their way of going out of town was to get away from all the Christmases. Well, then they had this storm, and they had to go to all their family Christmases, and each one was like its own disaster.
Nothing beats Dirty Santa.
I'm sorry, Abby.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to close the show with some final thoughts. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show.
You're listening to the Husker Online Show, your authority on Nebraska athletics.
I'm kind of not bought into the narrative that I hear on the team. I hear from everywhere that the offensive line is the problem. We're going to have a good offensive line next year, and I like the guys who are in that room already. And I just think you have to have a commitment. We have to have an identity in offense of what we're going to do. You know, when you're kind of trying to figure out, hey, are we going to throw it team, run it team? What are we? You put those guys in hard positions. And that's why, when Marcus came with me to Carolina, I made him be the assistant O-line coach. A lot of guys call plays because they're thinking about the quarterback only, and they're asking offensive linemen to do really hard things. You got to go coach it. And you coach it, it changes your approach. And so we're going to put those guys in a good position that are here. So I'm going to fight for those guys. I like those guys. You know, we're going to try to, we've tried to bring in some depth. And I wanted to bring in a great young group that we can develop and watch them grow. And the previous staff, Coach Frost, they had done a nice job of identifying. I like those players. But we also, we're going to continue to try to look, because I'll never, ever, ever not take a talented offensive or defensive lineman. That's what wins games.
And we're back here, final segment of the Husker Online Show, and it's like Matt Rule knows what Nebraska fans want to hear. Offensive line, defensive line, and the value of it. And look, we've lived in the Big Ten now, simple 12 years, and we've seen how you win in this league. And where does it start? The line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and he's not. I just don't think he's saying things to appease himself, to appease the fan base. He believes it. His background is in the trenches. That's what he likes. He had 3 different college jobs as a D-line coach. He taught under a guy named Pat Flaherty, taught offensive line under a guy named Pat Flaherty with the New York Giants. So he was the assistant. Rule was the assistant offensive line coach at the Giants. Much of his background is in the trenches. So when he talked, and he said, that was fascinating today. That part of the press conference was fascinating to me, where he just feels, he gravitates towards linemen and linebackers. Mm-hmm. He said, my expertise isn't backpedal by a corner. It's with the line. Boy, that was music to my ears, boy. I mean, at this place, it needs it. I don't know what the hell they've been doing, but it seems like they've just neglected the line of
But
scrimmage.
on paper, they've recruited guys that people want. Like Turner Corcoran, Ohio State and Oklahoma wanted him. Bryce Benhart played in the Army All-American Bowl.
It's true. There's not enough of those guys, though, Sean. You've admitted it yourself. No. Not enough of them.
Nuri Nuelainen, I think, has got a lot of potential, but he's got to get his body right.
But you named off those guys, but you could name off 4 or 5 that they had no business recruiting.
Like Michael Lynn left, or he's still on the team, but
Anderson,
Kahn,
the guys that just you don't even know, are they around? I don't know what they're. Anderson's not.
Yeah, without naming guys,
yeah, we shouldn't name them.
There'll be times after about a year you're like, this guy's never going to play for Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Like
too many of those, Sean.
And then, but like the ones that like Prohaska, like you're like, God, they're going to have to play this guy sooner than they need to. And that's been part of the developmental problem is they've had to play the Prohaskas and the Corcorans maybe a year earlier than they need to. Mm-hmm. Like look at Ethan Piper by letting him almost sit out a couple years. He actually got better. He regressed because he was thrown
in there too fast,
and then sitting out and letting it slow down. He played all right this year.
He did. He played some of the best football of his career towards the end of this past season, and I mean that's the way offensive line play is. You can't throw a bunch of freshmen out there in the Big Ten and expect them to do well. I mean, Nebraska's been doing that, like you said, for far too long. And to your original point, Sean, about they should be better than they are up front. Matt Rule agrees with you, and that's why he said that there's a narrative out there that the offensive line is the problem for why Nebraska's offense has been so bad. He didn't agree with it. He thinks that line is a whole lot better than people want to give it credit for. And the biggest issue that they've had is they've had no identity on offense. Right. They don't know if they're a running team. Right, they don't know if they're a passing team. Yeah. And this offensive line has no idea what they're supposed to be about. And so hopefully
that's it, Rob.
I'm not going to say this is going to change, but hopefully that recognition from Matt Rule and his background as an offensive line will change that to where these guys have an understanding of what they're about what this offensive line's identity is, and then they can develop towards that. And not only do they get the most out of the guys currently on the roster, but all this big group that they brought in, all these in-state guys that they're really excited about, have time to develop and work in the strength and conditioning and learn the playbook. So when they actually do see the field, they are a whole lot more prepared than the last group was.
Yep. Oh, and we should address why Rule kept Donovan Raiola, because he talked.
Huge part of it.
Yeah, he talked at length.
The players.
It's that, and also there's a name that everybody needs to know. It's Harry Heastand. Harry Heastand.
And Dylan Wright. I was kidding. I thought you were going to say Dylan Wright.
Yeah, him too.
No, Harry Heastand is a Milt Tenniper in the offensive line coaching world. Harry's the offensive line coach at Notre Dame. He was the offensive line coach with the Bears. Raiola Donovan worked under him both places, and Rule shares Heastand's philosophical approach to offensive line coaching. So people wonder why did Rule keep Raiola? Well, Raiola went in, I'm sure, to his office and said, "Hey, I learned under Harry Heastand." "Oh, you learned under Harry Heastand? Well, I worked for Pat Flaherty at New York Giants, and he's Harry Heastand's brother-in-law. And Harry Heastand has a sort of philosophy that I Matt Rule, I gravitate toward." So now we understand why he hired, why he retained Donovan Raiola.
And let's really be fair to Raiola. Like, he walked into a mess. The head coach got fired, and you had an offensive coordinator that was on a completely different page than the rest of the staff.
To the rest of everybody.
Than the rest of anybody in the country. He was on his own page of, and Mark Whipple knows more football than we'll ever know. No one's going to disagree, but the things that he tried to do, it just wasn't a fit, and it just wasn't working last year, and it really didn't help the offensive line, having some of the ways they were, dropping the quarterback back.
Yeah, it worked against Iowa, though. I will say that. Whipple can give you a big middle finger.
It didn't work against,
out the door, right?
Like the Rutgers game, though, they never should have won that game. That was
not really.
The fact that Casey only got sacked once in that game when he was probably pressured 20-some times.
Remember that sack, though? He got hit from both sides and the middle. It's amazing he came out alive.
Yeah. So, obviously there's a lot of work to do with this returning group, but, they have 7 guys with starting experience coming back. At some point, that's something that you can work with, especially when you get the right coaching and you get the right message and identity being instilled on these guys.
Right. Well, Rule didn't say this, but these guys you're talking about are all critical parts of their development. Corcoran, sophomore. Ben Hart, sophomore. Piper, sophomore.
Newelly,
junior, sophomore. Lutovsky, redshirt freshman, going into sophomore year. They're all at critical points. If they're going to be good, this is now. So if you're Rule, did you want to say, I'm going to throw a third offensive line coach at him and make him learn another way of doing things?
There's some material there, and I think nutrition and strength and conditioning.
Yeah,
you have to point that direction too.
You do,
because what were they doing? Like, were their bodies really they really touted things where they were at in those areas, but it just didn't line up.
One Hall of Fame offensive lineman told me, Sipple, they're not a bad technique group, but they're a bad body group, and they can't move the line of scrimmage, not because of technique, but because they're not strong enough. And so, I think what you're saying is correct, I think, or at least has merit.
Another thing we got to note, though, is Matt Rule made it clear that they're not closing the door on any further additions. He said that I will never turn down a high-level offensive lineman because that's what wins you football games, especially in the Big Ten. So if they have the opportunity through the portal or whatever it may be to add to this group for an immediate impact type player, they're not set in stone with this returning group.
No, shouldn't we say that another way, Rob? Don't they need to go get a couple?
Sure seems like it.
I think 1 or 2. You got to be picky, though. You don't want to just go out and go after anybody on the O-line.
No, I agree.
They obviously had a couple of guys targeted. Cornelius, who he announced to go to Oregon.
He did.
Yeah, and
Johnny Cornelius, UConn Cornelius.
UConn.
Johnny Cornelius went to Oregon, Sean.
Yeah, and then Ben Scott was the other big one that came in
here.
he's looking towards Auburn. He's visited UCLA, and in January he might go to Miami and Florida State. That was one that we thought with the Raiola connection they had a shot at, but it doesn't feel good as we sit here the week of Christmas right now.
But that's news. Johnny Cornelius to Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, he visited
here
in Ohio State and Tennessee and Oregon. So Nebraska got a swing at him, and best lineman in the portal. That's all you can ask. But they were the first of 4 visits, so that's tough.
Yeah,
when those programs are involved, because in NIL, we don't know this, but how much NIL did Nebraska really even involve in these visits?
Yeah, we don't have a clear picture on Nebraska's. Well, not on Nebraska, but on Rule's approach with NIL. Am I okay saying that on there? And we don't really have a clear.
I'll hit on my thoughts more in Tunnel Talk too on Friday, but that's still coming together. I think they've got a great thing going potentially, but to get all that off the ground in 2-3 weeks, that was pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but the good thing is they have results they can show guys. Like, look what we already had in place a year ago, and we're going to take that and make it better because Nebraska's NIL was good last year. They had a good structure. You hear these fantasy numbers thrown out there about millions of dollars and 500. Like, that's really not realistic. That's casino talk. That's, I went to the casino and I won a bunch of money. No, you ended up losing money, but you kind of like brag about your winnings. Nebraska had a really realistic NIL program, and the volleyball program had that, and they're going to have that now, and it's going to be better.
But how does Rule want to use it?
And how do they want to? Yeah, because that's a lot.
We don't know that.
And on that note, gentlemen, it's been a fun year. We got one more show left in the year, but
fun's a word for it.
Robin, you're going to be in Iowa, so Sipple and I, if we can get out of the house because it's going to be so cold, we're going to be back Wednesday. We'll tape on Wednesday, Sip.
Tape on Wednesday. Okay, that'll be fun.
Merry Christmas, gentlemen.
Merry
Thank you,
Christmas,
Sean.
fellas.
Merry Christmas to you.
And let me tell you, I'm so happy that you're on our team now.
Oh, stop, Sean.
Like, we're so blessed to have
Thank
you.
you.
So.
I appreciate it. I need
and
to
Robin,
Just working with a goat every day.
thank you, Robin, as well.
It's because I look like it.
Yeah, and then I'm here too. Just
Robin
kidding.
is the man.
I'm just.
Robin's the daddy.
Yeah, you guys are amazing, and it has been. It's been rough.
It's been a year.
Yeah, it's been a year.
It has been a year.
But there was a lot of fun. We had fun in Ireland.
Oh, God, I'd go back.
Yeah, it was fun. That was fun.
I'd had that seafood tower at Soul Seafood right now.
You like that? You guys
But
like
yeah,
that?
Ireland, the move to On3. I mean, there's been a lot of positives.
Oh, yeah.
Getting SIP. I mean, gee whiz.
By the way, $25 still special for the year if you want to get on. And
25 smackaroos.
we're number 2 in On3
That,
overall.
that gets you through or until next football
Yeah.
season. So it's
$25
not 25 a month. It's 25
for the
until
year.
September.
And that's not going to be around forever. So get on that special. We're currently the second largest site on all of On3. Get us to number 1.
Yeah, that'd be nice
Yeah.
if we got to number 1.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas to everybody. It's been a fun year of signing day, coaching changes, recruiting. We'll be back again, though, next week. Another edition of the Husker Online Show.
Thanks again for joining us this week on Husker Online, your authority on Nebraska athletics.